me that this guy over here did, Justin Balik. You can't really, I don't know if you can see him right now, but he's right there, Justin Balik, that's him. And he invoked the why. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. And now to your host, Jane Hill, right over here. There she is. Jane, woohoo!
Am I the host?
Yep.
All right, so yay! It's like a game show! Talked about last week, and so we're going to talk about different things that your clients can say to you in the home, right? But we want to preface it, and I'm sure everyone's going to say this at different points throughout the call, but if you do the beginning part right, that part that Justin talked about last week, if you do that beginning part right, then you should not run across. You should not run across these situations, but we want you to be prepared, okay? We want you to know what to say so that way you can feel confident, because when is the best time to overturn an objection? When is it, guys?
Before you go!
Exactly.
So before it comes up. All right. So we're going to talk about if your client ever says, I want to shop around. Everything looks good. Everything sounds good. But I want to shop around. Mr. Chadwick Ray?
What I do, I think really you're going to hear kind of a common theme. It's all about asking questions. You know, so sometimes you think that you have to answer a question by simply making a statement. Sometimes you can answer a question with a question, because when you ask them a question, they have to think about the answer, right? And now you're in a position where you're kind of controlling the conversation again. So if someone asks me, or they make the statement, hey, I think I want to do some shopping around, then I'm going to ask them a question. I'm going to say, now, when you say you want to shop around, you mean, you know, you want to kind of know what the rates will be with multiple different companies and kind of figure out what would make the most sense there. And they'll say, yeah. And I say, well, the good news is that's actually what I do. I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but I actually work with many different insurance companies. You know, on my end, I always do the shopping for you.
Okay. Mr. Paul Minichino, I want to shop around.
All right, so what I would say is exactly what Chad said is correct. Ask a question, but if you do it correctly, in the very beginning of our agent guide, it says, hey, we work with a bunch of companies. We work with Mutual of Omaha, American General, that we can get everybody approved and get the best rate based on what you can get approved for. So typically, if you've done it right on the front end, you won't get it on the back end. But also remember that if you do get it, that might not actually be the real objection. You know, Chad did a good job asking questions to see what it is, but maybe they don't like you. I know it's hard to say, but like they might not like or trust you. So you gotta say, if you did a good job on the front end, you shouldn't be getting that objection. But I absolutely love what Chad said as far as like ask a question to figure out, you know, what's the situation. Mm-hmm. Back to you, Jane.
Good answer. Good answer. Yay! Okay. I do just want to add one thing. For pretty much all of these responses, they're not necessarily, they don't have to be objections. They could just be default answers that your client gives you. Like if you've ever walked into a store or a mall, these physical places where you could buy things, right? And then somebody like comes up to you and says, can I help you find something? Like I was looking for something, right? So don't take like this is an objection. That could just be the default thing that they were programmed to say at some point, right? Like, you know, oh, I'm going to think about it. That's just what they're programmed to say. It's not necessarily an actual objection, okay? And like what they have both said, yeah, if you do it right on the front end, you really shouldn't. Even if you get it, you could say things like I distinctly remember this guy who was like, yeah, I'm going to shop around. Like, I'm going to meet with other people. And I'm like, it's 7:48 p.m., right? How many more people like me do you want sitting here in your house? And he literally said, I don't want you sitting here. I'm like, right, so which one of these makes more sense? But you can't just say that to somebody that you haven't built any trust, any rapport, or anything with, right? It happens, like, all that stuff works because you built it correctly on the front end.
You could also say something crazy like, look, you're gonna die.
What you gonna buy?
Every once in a while that'll work too.
Yes, it does.
Silly.
All right.
Works every time.
So, I saw something on TV that was cheaper, right? Globe, AARP, like whatever. I saw something, I don't know, I think I saw something that was cheaper. Miss Sydney?
Well, I usually look at them and I say, oh, you mean those commercials where you can get like $500,000 for like $19.99? They're like, yeah, like that. Like, I know, I see those all the time. The thing most people don't know is that a lot of the rates that they show you on these commercials and through the mail is based on a kid who's real young, real inexpensive policy because he's super healthy, perfect condition. He's like an Olympic athlete, right? So what my job is, since it's based on your age and your health, my job is to shop through and make sure I find the one that fits your situation that you will actually qualify for. So this way I can find you a plan that actually makes sense for you.
Perfect.
All right.
Good answer. Good answer. All right. And if they say they saw something on Globe or AARP and they got something in the mail, you can literally Google these things, right? You can Google Globe term rates. You could Google AARP term rates. And then you could be like, oh, like this, and show it to them. And then they can also read the little fine print that says that every 5 years, the rate's going to go up. Like, so you don't have to tell them that. They can read it on the website. So you're not the bad guy in the house, right? Like, there kind of needs to be a bad guy.
Or girl.
A bad guy. Or a bad girl. But it shouldn't be you. Okay?
That was a major key alert right there.
Okay. I want to, what if your client says, it all looks good, I want to look at my budget. We're going to go to Miss Sydney again on this one. I want to look at my budget.
Wow, look at my budget.
It all looks good.
Yeah. So again, this is one of the things I do before I even show quotes. But if we've gotten to this point, because we haven't done that yet, then we can go ahead and do it here at this point. So if they say I want to look at my budget, probably by now you know what their income is. So let's say they're on Social Security and they make $900 a month. I'm like, all right, well, let's go through it. So I say, what's your rent? How much is your car payment, if they have one? How much is your phone bill? Any of the bills that they might have, I go through, I write them all out, I add them up, and I say, all right, it looks like your bills are about $500 a month, and it looks like you have about $300 or $400 left over every month. Does that seem accurate, or do you think we left something out? And they'll tell you, yeah, I have about $300 left over every month, or $200, or whatever it is. And I'll say, okay, now out of this $200 that you have left over every month, how much of it makes sense to put some of that towards a plan so that your family doesn't have to worry about the funeral? And they'll give you a number. They might say, well, I think I could put 50. I think I could put 60. Now you have a kind of a baseline of where their comfort level is, so you know what kind of quotes to show them.
Perfect. Mr. Paul Minichino, do you want to add to this?
I do. I would say the exact same thing Sydney said. I wouldn't do anything different. I would just ask them what their budget is, and that's what I would do. I wouldn't do anything different at all. Sydney, good job. I have no updates. I have no like, hey, and this and that. Nope. I would go through their budget, and also I would probably say like, again, if you do a good job at the beginning, and they say that, you can say something like, yeah. So let me ask you this. If we could find the money, is it something you would want to do? Like, do you actually want to get some coverage in place? So be bold is what I would say, and don't back down, because if they want it, they're going to get it. You just got to figure out what to give them.
I got something on that. You kind of brought me back into my old school memories. So another thing you can do is you can say, well, look, on your end, I know you need to figure out exactly what your budget is. However, when we're looking at the numbers, were there maybe one or two that you were thinking about? And if they say, well, yeah, I was looking at, maybe this $50 one or this $100 one, then I'd say, well, realistically, maybe you want to start with on the lower end. Once you look at your budget, if you want to do more, we can always do more. But so we can go ahead and get this submitted and try to give you something. Yep. Why don't we start with the lower amount that you think that you could work?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Grab that ID. Let's go ahead and get this taken care of.
Mm-hmm. If you've got glasses on.
All right. Good. Okay, so it all looks really, really, really good, but Justin, I want to talk to my kids.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm. So there's a few things on this, all right? And a lot of people have said it, if we do our job right on the front end, right? But this part actually goes to before we're even in the home. So what I would say, and I'll answer once we're in the home too, but what I always tell my agents is if this happens, you're on a one-legged appointment that you didn't know was a one-legged appointment. So what you should have done is if someone is older or if they're single, I always ask them on the phone when I'm booking the appointment, so Bob, is there anyone else at all that helps you with your financial decisions, like a brother, sister, son, or a daughter that you would like to have there, or do you make all of your own decisions on your own? And then they're going to say, oh yeah, my son. Great. What time does your son get off of work? And then book the appointment to sit down with the person and their son, because you need all the decision makers there. That being said, if you're already in the situation, okay, and you're sitting with them, there's two different scenarios. If it's later on in the evening and you think this person is probably out of work, and let's say it's like 5, 6, and then maybe if it's earlier in the morning or something, be like, okay, no worries, what time do they get off of work? And then come back at that time. Either way, it's going to work.
Get it done.
Get her done.
Very good.
Now, something else that you could say, depending, like sometimes you might get some wishy-washy. Sometimes you might get some it's you die, something like COVID, and there's a pandemic, and like their work, like they're sick, like what if you died? And maybe they'll just go into their 401k, and maybe they just have the money. But like, which scenario do you want to see play out, right? And if this is something that is going to be comfortable for you, like it doesn't take away from you paying the electric bill, doesn't take away from you traveling to see the grandkids, then are your kids really going to be mad that you left them something for the burial? So this is more about what you want to do for them, not what your kids want to do for you. So that
was good.
But they probably talked about it, right? So don't just leave it open-ended and be like, oh yeah, we'll get back to you. No, like they're 62, they're 78, they're 84, right? No, they've been thinking about this long enough. All right. Chadwick Ray, have you ever had, like, you ask them, like, what's gonna happen? They'll just throw me in the backyard. It don't matter. I don't care. You say to these people who say they don't care.
So I actually learned this from Jane many years ago of how there can be a certain tone in a conversation and you could change the tone. It could be a laughing and a jovial one where people are like trying to poke fun, but you can actually completely change the tone and have a real effect. So an example I'll give is, if someone makes a joke, I'm not trying to make the kids rich, ha ha ha, they can just throw me in the backyard, ha ha ha. My response is not to laugh with them, is to keep a serious face and help them to understand the statement that they're actually making. So on my end, I ain't trying to make them rich. They can throw me in the backyard. Ha ha ha. I go, And I completely get that joke. I hear that joke a lot. But my question to you is that really what you would want? Because it's really not quite that simple. They can't just throw you in the backyard. They really are going to have, a financial side to it where they're going to have to really come out of their pocket. Do you want them to have to go about doing that themselves, or is it something that you would want to have taken care of?
Y'all saw the look in his eye a moment ago when he said that. Like, is that, he like leaned in and nodded down? Like, is that something, like he almost looked over the top of his glasses, but he didn't. Like, is that something that you'd want to do? Like, you gave him the eye.
Yeah.
Like, you gave him the, like, seriously, bro? Like, jabroni kind of eye. That, so like, you died, like, what are they gonna do with your body? Like, seriously, like, what are they gonna do? Like, your thing is real serious, and mine's like, no, retard. They can't do that. I'm not supposed to say that.
That's what you're saying in your head.
That's what I'm saying in my head. But like, cause I would make that joke, and it would just be that, a not funny joke. Cause it's me. So anyway, that's all I got.
Okay, no, stay here because we're gonna do the next one, which is I'm not worried about it because the VA is gonna pay for it.
Oh
that
yeah.
run. No,
So,
never mind. I just used the same word twice.
So
I'm not worried about it because the VA is gonna pay for it.
yeah. So if somebody said that, like the VA, and if you don't know what the VA is, that's Veterans Affairs. That's like the military, right? VA, not Virginia. Virginia's not going to pay for it. But have you looked up the benefits on how that works? Let's look it up together. And then you go to va.gov and you pull it up, and it shows them exactly how it only covers, like, if you're in a service-connected death, like it's due to something you did in the service, the most you're going to get is $2,000. I know that. But rather than me say that, I pull it up on the government website and show it to them because they don't know how to search it. And I learned how to Google search in this business. And so I search it for them. Seriously, I did.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to. I didn't go to college to learn that. I learned it in internship.
It's a skill to Google search something correctly.
Yeah.
So yeah, like we said in a different one, you need third-party validation, right? You need a bad guy, you need a messenger in this room, and it should not be you. So if you can pull up va.gov, then you could show them, right? Like, be like, oh, let's look at it together, right? And just show them on your computer, on their computer. If you don't have a computer and you're using your phone to do all this, right? Go to va.gov. Like, wouldn't you rather know now how exactly it works than have your kids trying to find out later? And then you could do it like with that serious look, like, wouldn't you rather know now than have your kids find out later? Let's just look it up, right? And then be assumptive about it. Not like, can we look it up? Please don't ask if you can look it up. Be like, why don't we look it up, right? And then you'll be able to look at it with them. Ideally, you would be looking it up after this call, so you'll kind of know, right? But that, yeah. Okay, so, all right, so the next thing that they could say to you is, so it looks good, but I'm going to ask my brother, because Justin, my brother, does insurance.
Yeah. So here's part of and I really wouldn't say a whole lot more than this, but I talked about on some of the other calls being bold, and the bolder you are in the home, the more people you're going to be able to help. You got to care enough to push a little bit. So if someone says something crazy like, yeah, my brother, sister, whatever, has an insurance license, maybe I'll just get from them or something stupid like that. I would just be like, that's Bob and Mary. That's kind of interesting. Let me ask you a crazy question. I mean, if your brother is in insurance, why the hell am I sitting here?
Ooh.
What are they going to say? What are they going to... Because, look, once they tell you, they're going to sell you on why you need to help them. If you don't ask a bold question like that, you're just going to get a bunch of BS. That's the reality. That's what I would say. I mean, shoot.
I love it.
Yeah.
You can also, it is still a bold question, right? So everything that we're saying, you can like pull your personality and put it into, right? So I've asked people, so if your brother has a license, how come you're shopping your brother? Right? And they will tell you things like, oh, I kind of don't trust him. Like, so why are you going to run it by the guy you don't trust? So which one is comfortable? Right? You know, they've also said things like, well, we don't like to mix business with family. So which one is comfortable? Right? And you will get like, you know, if you get this not from your brother, like, is Thanksgiving going to be awkward? Like, yeah. I'm like, okay, then I'm closing out my computer. I'm done. I'm like, but I'm going to grab your brother's number. What does he do? You know, who does he work with? Right? Like that kind of thing. But like, don't, like, you do need to be bold and just figure out where it is. Not like crestfallen, like, oh, brother does insurance. Like, why are they going to talk to me? Because sometimes they don't trust them and sometimes they don't want to mix family with business. But you have to ask. You don't just walk out of there, and you don't just walk out without calling one of us. But you have to ask. Okay. All right. So, this is concerns about Medicaid. Are you ready? You gonna come over?
I'm ready.
Okay. Paul's gonna come over. So, if you've ever had anybody who is like, I'm worried about my Medicaid if I do this insurance.
All right, so I've never had anybody say that, Jane. But
I have.
they don't say it like that. What they say is something different. But here's what I do know is for Medicaid, sometimes if you have cash value life insurance, they consider that an asset. My clients...
Hold on, let's say what Medicaid and Medicare. Two different things.
What are they? Go ahead, explain it to the people.
Medicaid is when you're below the poverty line,
That's true.
so it's Medicaid, and so that's it. You cannot have too many assets in your name. Like you have to have less than $2,000 in assets in your name, and so you can receive Medicaid. So different from Medicare, which is what people get when they're 65, Part A, B, supplemental, blah 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 blah.
So if someone gets disability, is that Medicaid?
That's not necessarily the same thing. It's just
Totally different
Medicaid.
thing. You don't have to know everything.
Yeah.
Here's the keys. You don't need to know anything, and I don't understand how this works, but I do know if you have a certain amount of assets in your name, it's not okay. So my clients do one of three things. The three things that they do are this. They either don't understand it like I don't understand it, so they fill out the paperwork incorrectly, and it doesn't matter anyway because the government doesn't know about it. I don't even understand it. All right. Number two, they move their insurance policy into one of their kids' names so that the kid can own it so that they don't have an asset. And number three is they just get the insurance policy anyway and they ask us. It's annoying because I have clients all the time ask for a cash value statement.
Yes, they do.
And I'm like, all right, let's get this cash value statement one more time. We did this again last month. What else are you applying for? But I'll help you for it. Like in my head, I'm going... Sometimes I'm annoyed, but I'm going, I know you need my help, so Christina, please help them get this done.
You can email them and get it now?
Yeah, I have a secretary who does that. She's awesome. So those are the three things that happen, and that's how we handle that situation. But most people have no idea how it works. All I know is we can figure it out.
Right.
It's not that serious.
Okay, so anyone can answer free for all. Can't find my banking information. Call me tomorrow. Okay, I'm just going to say something. We'll all list something.
So yeah, we'll each list the thing.
Yeah.
So if you're sitting down, you're filling out the application, you're at the bank, packed form, you're like, all right, you know, when you get approved for this, which bank you're going to use? Bank of America. Okay, great. Do you happen to have the account number? And they're like, oh, shoot. I don't know where that's at. You can either say, okay, great, no problem. Do you happen to have a bank statement? Or
let's log into your online banking.
Or if they have any old canceled checks. Older people have checks. For younger people, it's a little checkbook. It's a little book. They would fill out things in there and write a check. So they have these boxes of them everywhere.
Or let's call together. Let's just call the bank. They'll tell you right on the phone.
Or together.
And then the two special things that none of us thought of, but Michael Owens did. Taxation paperwork when they worked a job, or their old tax statements. Okay, run. Okay, and what are those two things that none of us thought of that we can use?
I can't remember that part, but I was just supposed to run in the shop.
The tax statements.
The tax statements.
The tax statements. The old tax statements are always a good way to find the banking account information.
Right.
You want the other one?
Yes.
And the other one is that sometimes they filled out a direct deposit form before, maybe to get money or to pay for something else, and they know where that is.
That's right.
Perfect. So don't walk out of that house without banking information.
Or run out of the house like this.
Or run. Alright.
I would say the absolute last case scenario. I've driven a client to the bank before.
Exactly.
I'd be like, hop in my car.
too.
Let's go get that thing. So.
Make sure your McDonald's wrappers are all, cleaned up. Alright, okay. Very last thing. I have insurance, but I don't know what company it's from. Responses.
Let's pull out your bank statement because it'll show you which company is pulling that money out.
Well, Bob and Mary, if you don't know what company, how are your kids going to find it?
Exactly.
Well, I know you've been meaning to call. I know you've been meaning to find it. I know it's in that back room somewhere. Go ahead and pull out your bank statement.
I do. Again, being the bull, I'm like, go ahead and go get it.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
I do a little
Don't you
shit.
think that's why I'm here?
Yes.
I gotta use the restroom anyway.
Okay, no worries. Go ahead and get it.
All right. Thank you so much. We are on the road to 100. Okay. We are going to San Antonio.
Yes.
We are going to be in Waco tomorrow. And we are going to be in Dallas on Thursday.
Dallas.
That's right.
And we are going to be at a city near you. So check my LPFN, check the dashboard, reach out to somebody if you don't know. All right.